Excellent.
Hooray! All right, great. So today I'm going to talk to you guys about the magic that is no-knead bread, because during the pandemic I have seen the new thing to do is to bake bread. But the thing is, to learn how to do that, you need someone to physically show you and kind of guide your hands on how to do it. But that's not appropriate right now. This is how you do it if no one's going to show you how. So there are a few things that are very important with bread, and that's gluten. I'm a huge fan of gluten. If I had celiac disease, I would, let's not even talk about it. So gluten is a protein that is found in wheat and flour and all that kind of thing. And when it's just sitting in the flour, it's like very kinky and crumpled up as like a molecule. So what needs to happen is you need to straighten out that gluten. And that's how you get like a really strong formation that allows for the chewiness of bread and like for it to hold its shape, as opposed to like cookies and cakes, which kind of crumble. So you need to straighten out those proteins, and then you need to create a really long chain of those proteins, and then, hang on a minute, my computer's gonna fall. And you need to like weave them all together. And that's how you get that really strong bond. But how do you do that? Normally that's formed through kneading. How do you do that if you don't know how to knead bread? You do this thanks to autolysis. So autolysis, auto meaning self, and lysis meaning destruction or eating, which, you know, sounds a lot like my university career. And that happens because of flour enzymes. There are enzymes in the flour itself that when the flour is not hydrated, just kind of hang out, they don't really do anything. But once you add flour, it starts to break down those molecules. And so the gluten, it won't straighten out, but it will stop being like all kinked up and knotted, kind of like your headphones in your pocket. So it'll just kind of loosen out. And then that allows for it to be in such a way that any small type of mechanical action will straighten out and cause them to weave together. So it's a very traditional technique. So like of just flour and water. So the French call it a pouliche. So for like baguette is how you start that. Focaccia is started the same way. It's called a biga in Italy. Very, very traditional. The problem with autolysis, because it's caused by enzymes, is that salt will stop autolysis, or it makes it really difficult, which is sometimes why if you just Google like a no-knead bread online, it's not going to have any salt, and it's going to be disgusting. This society is terrified of salt, eat salt, delicious. So I said that a small amount of mechanical action allows it to form into this strong bond. But how do we do that if we're not kneading it? Yeast. Yeast, you cannot convince me, is not magic. Yeast exists in the air, it exists in everything. Fruit, you can derive it from apples if you really want to. Yeast digests sugar, and when it digests those sugars that are present in flour, it creates carbon dioxide, which is why sometimes, like a long time ago, before yeast was really perfected the way it is now when you buy it, you would see that they would dissolve yeast with sugar water. Now that's not necessary because yeast is pretty manufactured and like it's gonna work with just the carbohydrates present in flour. So it releases carbon dioxide when it digests those sugars. And that creates these air pockets. And these air pockets, creating those is enough movement for the gluten, thanks to autolysis, to weave together and to form those strong bonds that we need. The problem is it needs a lot of time. So because we salt our bread, because we're not animals, that takes more time than it would otherwise. The other thing that you desperately need, other than time, is a Dutch oven. And I know this is putting it behind a paywall. There's no way around it. So a Dutch oven, because it's made of cast iron, contains a ton of heat. It retains that heat really, really well. And then once you put your bread in there, it radiates that heat in a way that nothing else really can, because it's so close and it's so hot. It like, I don't know if you've ever touched it 2 hours later, but it's still gonna be hot. So it radiates that heat very, very well. And because it radiates so well, those little pockets of carbon dioxide that were released by the yeast cause oven springs. So really, really quickly, your bread will rise. It takes like 5 minutes for your bread to go from like just a pile of dough to this giant, beautiful thing that you find in a bakery that you pay $10 for. And it also, because it's got a lid, it retains the humidity. And if you're making baguette, for example, you need a steam bath in the bottom, and that's how you get that really, really crusty exterior. A Dutch oven creates the same way because the humidity has nowhere to go. So it creates a really, really nice, delicious, crunchy crust. So this is how you make no-knead bread. If you want to screenshot this, this is the ratio. Because I have a bigger Dutch oven, like 1.25 is about my ratio. So you need 525 grams of flour. All of this is in grams. If you do it in cups, it is not going to work. If you follow a baking recipe with cups, it will be so inconsistent that you don't want to do it ever again. So 525 grams of flour. That flour can be white, it can be whole wheat. I do usually 50-50. Because you need the enzymes present in the flour, you don't want to be using bleached flour. So you want like unbleached white flour. That'll do the trick. And then the 8 grams of salt is 1.5% per weight of the flour. You can go a little bit higher, a little bit lower, but anything, between the range of 5 to 10 grams is really what you're shooting for. And then you need a warm ferment. So the warm ferment allows the autolysis to happen, and it allows for the yeast to digest the sugars. But then you end up with something that's not had a ton of time to develop its flavor. So you want to cold ferment. So I set it out overnight. You just mix those ingredients together with a spoon. Stick it on your counter overnight. And then the next morning, you stick it in the fridge for 1 to 3 days. And then that allows for a fermentation, which creates a lot of funk, a lot of flavor. Start with 1 day, see what you like. It's, 500 grams of flour. You're not out a ton. So this is how you make your dough. You fermented it for a day in the fridge. Great. You want to take it out for a couple hours so that it comes up to room temp. And then you fold it onto itself. I don't really know how to show you this. So you want to pick it up from the bowl, and then you just let it drape over itself. And then you turn the bowl, you pick it up, you let it drape down, and then you turn it again. You want to do this like 6 or 7 times, and that's it. You're done. It's amazing. There's no kneading. You pick it up. So you put it then into either a bread basket, like this thing, or a bowl with a tea towel, which is basically what it is. And the reason you want this to form your dough is you're going to be preheating your Dutch oven. So it won't be able to sit in your Dutch oven to do that second proof. So you want to set it in there, and that way it's really easy to tip out. So you want to flour the tea towel, and then you tip it out into your Dutch oven prior to, which has been preheating for 45 minutes at least in a 500-degree oven. It's super, super hot. Don't touch it. Don't touch it. So once it's in there, in the Dutch oven, cover it up with the lid. You stick it in the oven for half an hour. You take the lid off, another half an hour. Right now, I've been getting up at 6 a.m. to do this part because it's too hot at any other time. But that's how you do that. Then you enjoy it with a ton of butter, and it's gonna look like that. And you didn't do anything, which is just amazing. So yeah, that's how you make no-knead bread, and that's how it works.